Ann and Ellenville or anything?
No, I had to go to the person that
Oh,
I
that
bought
one.
it from.
I gotcha.
I just
Oh,
kept doing it. I'm really getting bad with my dyslexic, but yeah. Really getting bad at it.
Okay, we are out live.
We are live.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute us though.
There's nobody here.
Well, the meeting starts at 6 though, so
You don't even have Mary Lou.
she's not coming. She's on vacation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everybody. I'll call the workshop portion of the meeting to order. Would you stand for the pledge to the flag? And I'd ask that we remain standing just for a moment of silence in memory of the soldiers we lost today. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First on our agenda this evening is we have two members of the Ulster County Commission on Reapportionment. And come on up for you can introduce yourselves, and because I'll be honest, I remember Regis and I apologize, I've forgotten your name.
You remember Travis.
Travis, thank you.
That's it. Hi, Adam.
Regis, how you doing?
Good.
Regis, how are you?
Good. Nice to see you. Yeah. My name is Regis Obajeski, Commissioner for the Commission on Reapportionment for the county, and from the town of Ulster, and retired. And I was a not-for-profit executive for lots of years here in Ulster County and Dutchess County, and been a member of the community for about 34 years. So, thank you.
My name is Travis Rask. I'm a lifelong Kingston resident, and currently sitting on a commission with Regis and 6 others, or well, 5 others, because we're 7 total. Like I said, lifelong Kingston resident. I'm an accountant in the city of Kingston, and just happy to be on the commission and be able to contribute to 2 of our county. A lot of fun. So obviously the purpose of us being here tonight is just to let you guys know what we are, what the commission is, and to even get your feedback on what you guys are, interested in seeing with what we can do to the county lines and things like that for the 23 legislative districts. If you have any comments, questions, concerns. Like I said earlier, there's 7 commissioners on our commission, so it's odd number. So we will be voting on these lines to make sure that everything is as copacetic as it possibly can be. We follow main group of guidelines which are population generated. So therefore we can't really move the lines too much. So it's basically like in 2010, I believe we had about 185,000 residents. Divide that by 23 districts, around about 8,000 people per district. So we're gonna have to keep those same type of laws going forward with the new census data that's just come out, and we'll continue with that. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, that sounds good. Want me to continue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Go on, man.
One of the laws that we have to follow, besides equality, which Travis outlined, is that there's no gerrymandering. So we're not allowed to favor any political persuasion or eliminate people or rearrange things for a political purpose. And that's the reason the county had selected independent commissioners, that is, say, independent from elected officials. So that's usually for a lot of people a very comforting thing. And we come from different persuasions. I mean, Travis may have mentioned that he was part of the original 4 that were selected by the majority and the minority, so 2 and 2, and then those 4 selected in a process. 3 more. I was in that group, and so fortunate to be working with some terrific people. You're in your District 21, obviously, in the legislative arena. And when you were formed, and not formed, but when the lines were drawn in 2010, Mike was a part of this, sort of in the background, but very much in front. Mike probably knows more about reapportionment, redistricting than anybody in the county. And when I was being introduced to this by the county, it was really Mike that made the most sense to me out of the county officials. So I felt really very
Thank you.
privileged.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
for the board, I attend the meetings on behalf of the Supervisors Association and they've already picked my brain several times on some things, so.
Yeah, so in District 21, your district, in 2010, you had about 7,400 people in the town of Rochester. You were in a sense very lucky that you were kept whole. And then you added another 800 to the south of you in the town of Warsing, and that brought you up to about 8,300, which was over the target 7,900 by that long division that Travis was outlining. And but you were within the limits. And so one of the definitions of equality is a certain flexibility, and a county like ours gets a 10% flexibility. And that 10% doesn't mean 10% for each district. It means 10% for the whole county. And what the way it's figured, and it was figured by a Supreme Court ruling, is that there would be a deviation of no more than 10. So a plus 5 and a -5, that would be the most, or but that would be it. So that's how that was figured. And if with the new census, the number, was reduced a little bit, not by much, a handful of people. That's total overall compared to 2010, not much change. If it were kept the same, if those numbers were really held, and the lines that were drawn in 2010 are roughly the same, you would be at a plus 4.3. So within the deviation of 5%. So all things being equal, this could be very much a boring job here, but maybe not. So there's another thing to consider, and that is the prison population. We have 2 prisons in the county, one in Shongum, and of course one in Napanock. And so those 2 municipalities, Warsing and Shongum, are going to be affected by a law that is called it's called the New York State Prison-Based Gerrymandering Law. And that was actually signed in place in 2010, but it wasn't enacted. You couldn't enact it, that quickly, so that the 2010 census could figure it out. But what the law says basically is that prisoners come from all different places, and the way the prisoners are going to be counted in the census in New York, not necessarily nationally, but in some states, but certainly in New York, is by their last address, their last New York address. And so that address will be allocated to whatever district, and
that data should be included in the census data that we're given. We won't have to manipulate any data, which is good.
Right. So we don't know what that looks like, and nobody in the county knows what that looks like just yet. In fact, an official who had responded to a letter that our commission generated and the county represented wrote back and says, absolutely, this is very important. We're on it. We don't have a date for you. So we don't know when that's going to happen. So how many people whose last address were in Ulster County or in Shongum, what's the other one?
Keep saying Shongum. Do you mean Ulster?
Napanock.
You mean Ulster Correctional Facility?
No, he's talking Shongum.
Right. Yeah, the
The-
Wallkill Shongum
Wallkill
Correctional
Shongum
Facility,
Facility.
and then the Eastern Correctional
Ulster.
Facility, that's the one in Napanock.
There's 2 in
Eastern
Napanock.
Ulster,
There's 2 in Napanock.
2 in Napanock as well.
2 in Napanock.
Yes.
Okay,
Eastern
but
and
I
Ulster.
think the total is something like 1,100 each, thereabouts.
I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
that's what was confusing me. You kept saying Schwangum, and yet you were talking about Warsing and Rochester, and I know Schwangum is in Walkville.
Right, well, the Shongum is in, the Wallkill Shongum is in Shongum.
Yes.
Yeah, and the Eastern Correctional is in Napanock, which is for Warsing.
Yes, so
Right.
was Ulster. Is a correctional
There's
facility.
an Ulster
There's
Correctional
2
Facility also. in
correctional
Napanock.
Oh, there
facilities
is, okay,
in
okay,
Warsing.
There's three in Ulster County.
okay, 3 in
correctional
Ulster County,
facilities.
okay. All right, well, we'll figure that out, or we won't figure it out. Somebody will figure it out for us.
Actually, there would be four. There would be Shawangunk, Walkill, Eastern, and Ulster. There would be four correctional facilities.
Okay.
In Ulster County.
Write that down, please.
What's that?
I'll write it down.
Yeah. So however, Docs gives the information
Right.
to this New York State Commission, which is represented by a state senator and an assembly member. However that happens and it sorts itself out, we'll be told, that it's up to them to do that. And then our deliverables as a commission on May 20th of next year of 2022, we have to have in place by agreement among the commissioners, a draft plan for the county, and we'll have at least one hearing, maybe two, but one hearing. And then by July 20th, this is after the hearing and whatever results come from that, by July 20th of 2022, we have to have finalized a plan that goes to the Board of Elections. So that's it. That's our job, and we'll learn more about the
Very
prisons.
interesting.
So
Yeah,
that-
Yeah.
So you did get confirmation then that law does apply to the counties as
Does.
well?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
because that original law that he's speaking about was done for the state legislature or the assembly and senate.
We need to do a little more research,
Yeah.
actually.
We're
on
trying
that,
to
but you're
determine if
correct.
that law actually applies to the
counties.
counties.
That is correct,
Yeah.
Mike. Yes,
Um,
we're currently doing more research
yeah.
on that because you're based on the federal numbers, we can't necessarily adjust them
Right.
yet. So that's why we're gonna wait for the numbers to be given to us, and then we can go from there.
And this redistricting would take effect in the 2023 election for the 2024 county legislators. So,
a little more info on Ulster. Ulster is a pass-through facility. They bring them in, they house them a short time, and then they move them on to other facilities.
in different parts of the state.
That is correct.
Hmm.
So I don't know how you'd get an address for those
Yeah.
people.
It's an
until
intake, yeah.
It's an intake and
Facility.
it's a-
Okay.
Okay,
That's the
okay,
thing.
I see.
an
Thank you for
intake
that.
facility.
So basically that could make our population up or down depending on,
Yeah.
It
I
could,
mean-
it could.
and what's the date that they use for that?
Well, that was what I was sort of making a joke about. They said it's very important. We're on it, but we don't know when.
Right.
The census
No, no,
date
census.
is
It's like
April,
the
is April
census date.
1st.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we.
Oh,
so we
yeah, the
are only
census date,
using the
yeah.
census
Okay.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything is like.
So it's
said
like
we
a
provide.
pause, like whoever was
Was
in there
at
at
that-
that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
that's
correct.
yeah,
And then
that
when they
makes
have
sense.
those list names, then yes, they will go forward with their most recent address before they were in the intake or
Right.
however
Or-
incarcerated.
or-
however they were. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Very interesting.
It can be, it
Yeah,
can be
it's
for
gonna-
sure.
it's
We're
gonna
gonna have,
keep you thinking.
we're gonna be fun. I mean, the nice part about it, again, it's relatively mathematically driven. So, I
Right.
mean, there's not much we can do, like Regis said, the gerrymandering isn't our intent by any means. We don't want to see a, square with a finger coming off of it to, add additional population to some way, shape or form. We are gonna do our best to keep the lines. Like Regis said, the population hasn't really changed too much. And the lines, they've been pretty good, in the, with what we have is far neutrality, I think is the right word, I'm sorry. And, keeping things together. So I don't necessarily envision us really screwing the lines up or messing with them too much, but of course, anything can happen. But at this point, it seems like I said, with the mathematics and things.
It's a hard process because you move the line, some of the neighborhoods, because the census is based on the census blocks.
Correct.
And a census block is everywhere when you make a left turn that you make a square. So in some areas like us, the census block is very large, but in Kingston or Saugerties or New Paltz, the census block could be very small.
Mhm.
So it's if you've gone through the process, have they gotten you the software yet to play with?
Yeah,
a little bit?
well, not to
Yeah.
necessarily play with. it, but
I've gone through the
Yeah.
demos. And things
Oh,
like
that's
that.
right, you were the
Yeah,
one selecting.
yes. So.
It's literally trial and error. You click on a
Yeah.
block and you look at your number and like, oh, I'm over by 48.
Yeah.
You click on another block, oop, I'm under by 20, and you gotta just find the right
And
combination.
the software that we are using actually is open to the public. We do have public access to that software, correct, Regis? It's an online
Yep.
format, online software. So if you guys want to have some fun and give your input, you're more than welcome to share, and we'll take it into consideration for sure. We do actually have a website. Do you actually have the name of the website? I forgot it.
Well, I think if you just, you know,
If
do
you go
it.
to the county legislature page,
Yeah.
it's accessible.
Yeah, and just put in reapportionment, even if you say, if you have Ulster County reapportionment, that'll get you to our webpage. And that has all the information, everything from FAQs to contact information.
And if you do have questions, please post them, because we're trying to build up that FAQ for a nice database for at least others, down the road, if they have those same questions to be able to have those answers.
Well, thank you both. Thank you for
Well,
coming.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for teaching
Yes,
us.
thanks for having us.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
And enjoy the rest of your meetings.
There
I'm
you
sure it's
go.
gonna be fun.
Corrections
take
for
care.
your figures.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
I'll see you gentlemen in a couple
Yeah,
weeks
okay,
at the next one.
Thanks a lot, guys. Take care.
Okay, next we have a presentation from our comprehensive plan and land use code review committee that we established in 2020. And looks like we have, what, 8 of the members here? 9, 8. Yeah. So
I am going to. Very good.
We're gonna sit up.
they're gonna do it on the TV. We tried to project it on the wall and it just doesn't reflect well.
Capture the essence.
All right, guys, due to the overwhelming crowd that we have here, I will shorten my intro a little bit. And before I hand it over, we each have a little bit to present here, so we pop up and down. I want to thank the town board for giving us a chance to present. And also, if there's anybody out there, the townspeople for giving us a chance to present and listening also. This is an overview, and we figure that the town board will want some follow-up meetings for more clarification, more of a map review, presentation of greater granularity, et cetera. So it's just an overview, we'd be happy to do. We also plan to hold a series of presentations for town residents. So they have the opportunity to ask questions, get answers, give input, suggestions, and generally get to know what suggestions we came up with. I also contacted the Historic Preservation and Environmental Conservation Committees to do presentations at their, either this month or next month, what we're going through at their committee regular scheduled meetings. And thank you to everybody who is here for all of the input, all the hard work, and the many, many hours. So town board, as both town board, town clerk, and our town attorney have electronic and hard copies. That is of maps, of the review of the zoning code, the subdivision code, and suggested changes to the schedule of district
Lauren, a
regulation.
question on that. Did you send the electronic? Because I did not
We
receive
sent
it.
to Kate, and Kate.
It was sent to
has it,
Kate. Okay,
And so it's up to Kate to distribute.
okay, thank you.
So for the sake of time and continuity, let's go through the whole thing, and then if there are any specific questions, keep it to the end. Michael, over to you.
Longer than your previous intro.
I know.
Try to gain us some time back. Hello, everyone, welcome. Thank you for being here. So we have done a ton of rehearsing, so if it seems like the handoffs need a little work, we're gonna get better at that. But I think what we wanted to do was just start off with a quick quiz for people. And that is not advancing. Let me figure that out. Why are you not advancing? Great. Does that work? So the first thing we want to do is you want to see how many people can actually identify Ulster County on the map. Now, you don't all have to yell it out, you can keep it in your head. Don't feel bad if you can't do this. I think Ulster is probably one of the few counties I've lived in that I can actually identify. But the answer here is C, that is Ulster County. The next part of the quiz is to see how many of you can actually identify Rochester. Hopefully you all can, but we're not really sure. There may be some people in town, I definitely have talked to people that aren't really 100% sure of what Rochester is. They tell me they live in High Falls or Stone Ridge or some other part of Rochester, but we should all be aware that it is C. The reason I wanted to put this up here is because some of what we're going to be talking about, geography, ecology, human geography, are really at the core of land use requirements and zoning and things like that. So for those of you who don't recognize this, this is Rochester. Obviously, we have the Catskills up top, the dumps down here, and then we have the 209 Rondell corridor kind of runs right down the middle. That will become significant later on. The next test, and this starts to get into land use, and the reason we wanted to discuss this was a lot of the recommendations that we are making have to do with not only the way in which the land is zoned in town, but also what you can do with specific parcels. So the first question is how many people are aware, and how many of us in the room are actually aware where you can get a special use permit to land a helicopter on your property. I'm sure you guys don't want to come up and draw this, but that is the area of Rochester where you currently can actually land your helicopter if you get a special use permit. And how many of you know where you can open a commercial event facility with a special use permit? The answer is pretty much everywhere. The only areas where you can't do this, and to clarify, I think I have the definition here. A commercial event facility is the business use of a parcel for conferences, banquets, festivals, weddings, or other similar celebratory or education activities conducted ancillary to another approved or allowed use, subject to the standards of 140-35. So pretty much where you can host large events. The only areas here are the areas in black. Everywhere else you can, as of today, open a commercial event facility. The areas in black are our industrial district and our natural resource district, just in case you're wondering. And the last one of these is how many of us know where you can open an adult bookstore with a special use permit? Very important to a lot of residents here. The answer is this little blue area here, 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 and here. That is also our industrial district. So that, as of today, and actually I think this was a change we made because I don't think it was listed in any of the uses. We added it because we felt it was important. That is where you can open adult use businesses. We actually didn't recommend any changes to that. So if you do want to make changes to that, you're going to have to talk to the people around town and figure out where you want to allow that. But that's where it stands today.
And none of them are by schools, of course.
Yes. So that I will take a break now.
My name is Rob Kilper, and I demonstrated knowledge of our town's comprehensive plan. I've had experience working at the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey in the capital planning area. And I have an engineering background, chemical engineering, bachelor's of science. So I was selected for this committee along with the other members. But as we approach what is a comprehensive plan, we know that New York State government strongly recommends that towns adopt a comprehensive plan. Our plan was adopted in 2006. It represents a roadmap of the types of development the town can expect to include in the future. One of the benefits of a comprehensive plan is that it will be very unlikely that your town, our town, is accused of or guilty of arbitrarily changing its zoning code. And so by having a comprehensive plan, we're allowed to proceed with making changes to our zoning code. It is a live document and it can be reviewed and revised periodically, so it's not set in stone. This is just an example that comes right out of our comprehensive plan. It shows the Catskill Mountains to the top left and Schwandam Ridge to the bottom right with
streams and waterways and other factual information. These are the goals of the comprehensive plan. We just pulled it out of the comprehensive plan: protecting agricultural lands, open space, hamlet revitalization, ensuring the town remains affordable and there's affordable housing. We want to prevent the intrusions of incompatible uses in residential areas. And then better designs associated and green design and protection of groundwater and waterways. One of the things in the comprehensive plan that people admired most about our town is that its agricultural character and bucolic beauty. And so we sought to make changes to keep the agricultural lands in agricultural production. If we think about the growing food shortage, TOR's large inventory of New York State prime farmlands could help meet this need if we encourage farmland to stay in agricultural production. This committee used these goals to inform the changes we are proposing in this revision effort. Okay, so what is ZRC? So we've been calling it the zoning review committee all along. Now I'm seeing it's land use and there's a change to it. So basically we're serving an advisory role. We've come up with things that we think are important to include. And so it's up to the town board to decide, and also public approval. And why it's needed, these changes, we've learned over the years. One example, code enforcement office identified weaknesses in the code and had requested that we revise the code to include things to address those weaknesses, such as new businesses, contractors' storage yard. There was nothing in the code associated with requirements for that, so we sought to include that. We also learned that the town attorney was uncomfortable with our definitions. Some definitions were not clear, so they needed to be revised and updated. And we started our effort in February of 2020. And basically we were recommending changes to the existing code and also the zoning code. And we've made recommending adjustments to the schedule of use, as Maren had mentioned, and we've also drafted new sections of the code. With that, I'll hand it off to Michael.
So one of the most important things I think that we want people to understand is what the process is and what our role is. And so you all know, because you created us, what our function is. But the citizens of Rochester may not know. So we want to emphasize that we are actually here in this green box here, and what we are, as Rob pointed out, what we are doing is we are providing our recommendations, our advice. We're not making any changes to code, so that is your responsibility. We're handing over the baton, and now you are responsible for doing that. So these are not the people you should be mad at. These 8 people in the room. Nobody should be yelling at us. You're welcome to. You shouldn't be. We're not the people that are actually going to be making changes. Now these are the people you can get mad at over here. These people here are the ones that will ultimately have to take these recommendations and kind of figure out how to work them into the process. But you really shouldn't. You really shouldn't be mad at these people, because ultimately, if you look here, this whole process has multiple points at which the people of Rochester can actually come, bring their ideas. Hopefully not yell at the town board, but provide recommendations, possible changes, edits. And so the town board really can take this information, they can pass it off and decide not to deal with it, or they can pick up any of these ideas and they can start putting it through the process. And that process will include multiple opportunities for people to come forward and hear the ideas before anything gets changed. So I think that's the key thing we wanted to make sure people understand, is that this is a process. This was the initiation of some ideas, and we're going to see those ideas over the next several months and potentially years evolve. And I hope that everyone will feel empowered to come to you with their ideas and have discussions to make sure that they have influence.
Great, thank you, Michael. So that sort of, we're moving on now to talk about the recommendations that we're making. And the first that we're going to start with is the protection of agriculture value that Rob pointed out. And I think we all, I know being on the town board with all of you, I know that we're all lucky, and we all know that we're lucky to live in a town that values its farm heritage and its farmland. But we can't lose sight of the fact that we need to continue to value our farm heritage and our farmland. It's not something that we should take for granted. And one of the biggest reasons for this is that the farming industry is the food industry. It's not just any industry. It's something that's vital to our livelihoods as human beings. And not every place has what's needed to have farming. Not every place has the land that's needed to farm. It doesn't have the water that's needed to farm, and it doesn't have the natural resources that we need to farm. And so we have that. That's something that we have here. And you know, one of the things that really struck me is even with how much we value farmland in New York State, we're one of the top, I believe, top 20. We're within the, I'm forgetting the statistic, but we're up there in what the top 20% of most threatened farmland. And one of the #1 threats to farmland is actually rural development. And that's because it severs farm parcels and keeps them from being intact farms. So we are making some recommendations from our committee regarding agriculture and the protection of agriculture. And one of them, I'm coming over here so I can see, is, and Michael's going to go through this in just a moment, and it's to encourage keeping farmland parcels intact through a creation of a new agricultural zoning district. Michael's going to be the one to talk to you guys about our thinking behind that. But we also have made some recommendations that are just in the existing codes that's in that big book that Maren delivered to all of you. So we're expanding the provisions afforded to farm operations through the way we're organizing the definitions. We are looking to protect some of our historic resources, which include farms, through the creation of a historic overlay district. And later, we're going to be talking about our proposal to help protect our water supply. And that's going to be really important to what I'm talking about, because farms need water. We need the land and we need the water. So now I'm going to pass it off to Michael so that he can walk you guys through this new proposal for an agricultural district.
So hopefully we have not forgotten the shape of Ulster County, but that's what you're looking at here. For those of you who don't know, this is, I know it's kind of faint here, but this is the town of Rochester. And what you're looking at, aside from the imagery, is these large brown areas here. So these brown areas are actually a map that shows the prime agricultural soils in New York. So if you look at Ulster County as a whole, and you look at where those soils are concentrated, there's a large amount down south of the Schwalgam. In Gardner and in that area in New Paltz. And then there's this huge swath that just runs right down the center of Rochester. So you can see here, and I'm going to zoom in so we can see a little closer. You can see again, the pink here is Rochester, and you see how much prime farmland we actually have in the town. And then one more here, we'll just kind of show, again, these are all the parcels in Rochester, and really tracking along not just the Rondout, but extending up here and further east there. So one of the goals that we had was to try and figure out a way to recommend to you all how we could keep some of those larger farm parcels intact. So to kind of not have the kind of rural development that would split those farms up and basically make them not farmable for the future. So we tried to identify within the town where our large parcels were that had access to a lot of these prime farmlands. And that was how we came up with our recommendation for what we were going to call the A10 district. So the agricultural zone here, it's larger parcels. And as you can see, the lighter pink sections do not have the prime farmlands under them. But the darker sections are really where, and this is 209 down here, so you have all of your Kelders and some of the larger farms there. And so you can see that a lot of these areas here, these larger parcels, really have agricultural prime soils intact there. And then the second slide here is going to show you where our R1 and R2 zones are. So the reason why I wanted to show this is we really need to try and find a balance in town here, right? So it's not that we need to keep all of our farmlands intact and then we can't support housing, but we also don't want to have housing everywhere and lose access to all these farmlands. So there are sections where we do have R1 and R2 districts that include prime farmland. And so I think the goal from a zoning perspective is to try and figure out how to concentrate development in those areas where we already have a degree of density. So there are still some large parcels in these areas that can be developed. And so the goal would be to protect some of the larger parcels, keep them intact, and allow development to concentrate in areas that are already used for residential purposes.
Covering the next section, protection of quantity and quality of water. As part of my requirement to be on this committee, I was asked to participate in online training. And so the DEC and Ulster County Planning Board had coursework that familiarized participants with new practices in New York State throughout, and also Ulster County, we did a densification seminar on how to prepare for the incoming masses. The information gained from these instructional meetings was used to inform the language and the areas of our code that needed strengthening. The town of Rochester does not have a wetlands law. And so the DEC training showcased successful programs that were being implemented in many towns throughout New York State. This committee sought to develop the wetlands law that meets our needs and provides for future protections comparable to what other New York City towns are currently implementing. Why is a wetlands law necessary? Watercourse and wetlands protections serve to protect public health and safety and welfare by ensuring safe practices. And through regulations, we can protect this natural resource. And as Aaron had mentioned, farmers need water, so we need to protect that source. Another reason why it's necessary, watercourse and wetlands form an ecosystem that is not confined to one property, and research has shown that effective protection requires uniformity of preservation and conservation throughout the town. Another reason that it's necessary, loss of water courses and wetlands can aggravate flooding and erosion, and can also cause degradation and diminution of water supply for town residents. This may pose a threat to health and safety and welfare of residents and visitors. And lastly, why it's necessary, the regulation of water courses and wetlands is consistent with the interests of farmers and agricultural operations that rely on this natural resource for their ongoing operations. And I think, are you next? Aaron?
I think Michael's gonna show us the map.
Yeah, so again, as with the proposed A10 district, we are also proposing what we recommended be called the PL10, the Protected Lands 10, which is basically parcels that we feel are either environmentally sensitive or may, for various different reasons, not be conducive to the kind of denser development that we might see in some of the other areas. So what I'm displaying here, again, we have Rochester in the middle. There are two, the large green swath and the yellow swath are actually matrix forest blocks. So the green is our primary forests, and then the yellow are kind of connected zones where you might have migration of different animal species through those zones. This yellow here, some of you may be aware, is the Colony Farm area. So that's one area that where the Shawagam area and the Catskills actually connect. So it's a migration corridor for a lot of animals. The other thing you can see here is the named and unnamed streams throughout the town. So we have the light blue and the darker blue. And our proposed PL10 pretty much concentrates along those areas. So you see we have a lot up here in the matrix block here, and then we have some additional stuff in the southern part of the town. And then if I add in the gray here that just appeared, this is our R5. So R5 is more or less the conservation area, the lower density area that we currently have in town. So this is our R5, and again, most of what we were thinking when we looked at the R5 was to have it be along the streams and waterways, areas where not only do you want to protect those resources, but you all also it's challenging to build there. You know, there's official permitting. You know, you may run into a wetlands issue. So we wanted to identify those for people so that they were aware, you know, when they actually purchase the property. What I added in here was the A10 district. So you can see again, you know, where there's water is also where there's a lot of prime soils and where there's also good farmland. One of the things we were mindful of is we want people to be aware this is not like trying to put all of the town into protection. So we wanted to emphasize that a lot of this area is already protected. So it's either New York State land or it's part of the Mohawk Preserve, or it's been put into some kind of agricultural easement by the property owners. So the sections in red are all already protected. There's no changes there, and that pretty much covers most of what we were doing. You know, some of the changes you would see are along the edges of the Catskills, and then also the Bly, which is you know, already a wetlands there. So.
Okay, great. Thank you, Michael. So that concludes the mapping portion of our presentation. So one of the things that we really wanted to address, which I think all of us on the board also would really love to address, is the housing needs in our community. There's studies, the housing study, there's also just talking to people. We know that it's critical that we try to take steps to address housing needs in our community. It is an issue of concern, and it's not just access to housing, but finding housing for people that is affordable. I talk to people every day that don't know where their kids are going to live when they are ready to move out. So this is definitely something that we wanted to spend a little time to look at. And one solution that we came across and feel really strongly about is to allow accessory dwelling units as an accessory use in the town of Rochester. This is a simple and powerful piece of land use policy that would give residents in our community more freedom to solve some of their own housing needs. We are proposing code that would allow accessory dwelling units as an allowed accessory structure in our town. This is not something that is current, that people can currently do. And I can just walk you guys through that really simply, which is that in our town, you know, if you're an R2 and you have 2 acres and you have a house, you can't build another house there. You have to have 2 more acres in R2 to build another house. So if you want to put up a second dwelling, you have to have 4 acres in R2. So what we're proposing is that there's a special kind of dwelling, and we define it as a subordinate dwelling unit having its own kitchen and bathroom facilities located either within the principal residence unit or within an approved detached accessory structure and meeting the requirements of habitable space as defined by New York State Uniform Fire and Prevention Building Code. For the purposes of this code, accessory units shall have a maximum number of 1 bedroom. And I believe it's also, it's under at 750 square feet. So these are not houses per se, but it's a dwelling with 1 bedroom. And if what we're proposing is like you see in this picture, if it's attached here, either as an attachment that you, an addition, or in a room or like the basement, that just be an accessory use. That if you had that R2 property and you have a house, you just go to the building department and you can just do it. What we're also proposing is if you want to do a detached one, again, it has to be under 750 square feet, but you only have to have 50% density. So if you had 3 acres, say, in R2, you'd be able to do one of these. And I feel very strongly about this, and we think this is very powerful because it gives the solution to the people. And there are other things that need to be done, but I think this is something that I am asking the board to prioritize because I think it could be really, really good. And now I'm going to hand it over to Maren to talk about all the other amazing things that we did.
And now the really boring stuff. So, as you can see, we tried to take there I am on a planning board meeting. And take the goals of the comprehensive plan and then apply it more granularly to our zoning. So protect our agricultural lands. We have the agricultural 10-acre. We have the right to farm guidelines have been expanded. We have removed uses from AR3 zoning district and limited the uses in the schedule of district regulations within the A10. Protect our open spaces, next subject. We established, as you heard, we suggested establishing a protected land zoning district. And as Michael said, these are largely lands that are either already protected, are buffer or contiguous to already protected lands, are highly environmentally sensitive, or are unbuildable, because we do have a lot of these lands that really, while they might be 20 acres, you are never going to be able to do the steep slopes and wetlands and a variety of environmental constraints, build the density that people might want. Protection of our quantity and quality of water. So these are all goals within the comp plan. Strengthen our flood district is something you will see when you read through. So we tightened up a lot of the regulation within our flood district overlay. Same thing with our aquifer protection overlay. And we proposed the wetlands and water body protection law that Water spoke of. And providing affordable housing, affectionately called granny apartments in some places. This leaves the final 3 goals of the comp plan, which are clarifying and simplifying the code, preventing intrusive uses in residential areas, and encouraging economic development while maintaining community character. So clarifying and simplifying. A lot of these, as Rob mentioned at the very beginning, a lot of these recommendations came from code that was identified as unclear or confusing or outright contradictions that we have in the code. And this was pointed out by code enforcement, ZBA having difficulties with things, planning board, or building department. So we did some relatively mundane clarification exercises. This also incorporates, in 2017, there was a zoning review committee that was established, and they had a whole series of clarifications and simplifications to the code. All of their suggestions are combined in here also. So we took verbatim everything that they suggested and put it in. So some examples of clarifying and simplifying. Hold on, guys, it gets really exciting. Yard is now yard setback. This is actually very tough. It's tough for me because you think of your yard is your yard. In zoning, it is the setback from the edge. So everywhere it says yard, it now says yard, parentheses, setback. Actually will make the life of building department, zoning center a lot easier when people know that you're not talking about the yard you have in the middle where you do fun stuff. We updated noise testing and monitoring standards for commercial and industrial uses. It wasn't clear. We were clear on what our parameters are for noise, but not how you continue to test it and monitor it to make sure that you were following the regulations as they were. We clarified what a landowner can and cannot do with a non-conforming use, building, or structure. It was very confusing to understand what you can keep doing, not keep doing. In fact, that came from the 2017 committee, had to make it a lot clearer. If you have a structure that's not conforming, can you do new stuff to it? do you remodel it? Do you break it down, et cetera? So we clarified that in sort of plain English. We added missing definitions and updated definitions. Contractor storage yard, day camping, campground, farm stand was not in our definitions. Storage containers, they're in all new size, shapes, and flavors now. So we added definitions of all the new size, shapes, and flavors of storage containers. We updated our commercial industrial design standards to reflect a lot of our historic heritage that we have, our parking standards. We tend to have too many parking spaces requested, so we scaled it down using the international something or other parking code. Because we are constantly giving waivers to people because we say you need this many parking spaces and you really need many fewer. So we took that down to reflect experience. And we also tailored our lot standard to better fit lot sizes. So with clearer regulations on flag lots, we have smaller setbacks where it's an industrial use. So now you have two contiguous industrial parcels. They don't have setbacks nearly as great because that way you can pack the density of industrial use within an industrial area. Because if a warehouse is facing a warehouse, they don't really need to have as big a setback, but if a warehouse is going to be facing someone's residence, then you want a larger setback. And we also changed, so larger lots have larger road frontage requirements and smaller lots have smaller road frontage requirements. That's an example that Wilton said, if you have a 50-foot road frontage, but you want the density of our historic downtown Accord or Albertville, houses weren't traditionally built that way. So now you have a 25-foot, we're suggesting, setback in the hamlet areas. So the sort of your setbacks and your frontage fit the size of your lot. Preventing intrusive uses. One thing was to improve our solar code, once again, to increase setbacks, install more natural screening, controls for battery storage. Battery storage didn't even exist when we did our first solar code. So now we have to have something to monitor and provide safety for everybody for batteries. Protected prime soils, require decommissioning bonds, and et cetera, amongst other things. So now we have some experience with solar, tightening up some of our solar regulations. We keep junkyards out of the flood, aquifer protection, and historic overlay districts. Before you could put a junkyard in the aquifer protection district. So these are a lot of the clarifications that going through piece by piece. And this gets, you know, on and on and on, but we simplified and narrowed the use and the uses in the schedule of district regulations. Here's an example. We took golf courses and private educational facilities out of the AR3 district. Once again, the goal of the AR3 is to promote agricultural uses. So golf courses and private educational facilities don't really promote agricultural uses, but there are plenty of other places in town where you still can do this. We're removing commercial special event facilities from R1 and R2 districts and shortening the hours of operation on Sundays in all districts. Defining and regulating kennels. Updating our subdivision code to clearly protect our agricultural lands, streams, and aquifers, and limit subdivision on unbuildable lands. And we did remove some of those helicopter landing pad locations. We tightened up the helicopter stuff. All right, and the last one is quicker. It is encouraging economic development while maintaining community character. This is the historic district overlay, which clearly defines our historic properties and outlines design guidelines, not rules, but just guidelines for the use and maintenance of historic properties. It creates standards that increase the incentives for hamlet development and density bonuses for energy efficient development. And as we said, we define and create standards for new uses, such as the short-term rentals that started, its nexus was within our zoning review committee that you all are close to finishing off now. New use didn't exist in our previous code. Same thing for contractor storage yards and same thing for workshops. We didn't get to it, but I guess we're gonna have to have cannabis dispensaries. When we started the whole thing, that didn't even exist either. So that's why the code is a living entity because you have to keep changing things. And We created clear design guidelines and regulations for subdivisions so people know ahead of time what is buildable space and what is not buildable space. And to guide development, as Michael said, to denser areas and prevent rural sprawl, which encumbers and endangers our agricultural lands.
So actually, we do have one more mapping illustration, so I just wanted to go back quickly. This was the commercial events facilities that we talked about at the beginning, and this is one possible outcome that the board could decide to take, which is to disallow that or not allow that in the R1 and R2 districts. So that's what that would look like. There's still plenty of areas around town where you can still have commercial events facilities. However, the denser areas where you have people living very close to one another, families, that might be one area where the board might say, hey, we're not gonna do this in town. So I think that was.
Yeah, so in closing, we thought, what might be some of the headlines that we can see in the future? And so while we cannot guarantee we will see these headlines, we can come much closer to these becoming a reality if we incorporate our proposed changes. Thank you for your attention. And with that, Maren, I pass it to you
That's
for
pretty much it.
closing thoughts.
Thank you guys. And we also wanted to add two thoughts, that this is not like a buffet where you gotta fill your plate and do everything all at once. Pieces of this could be done because they really can stand alone. An example would be augmenting the solar code. That's really completely standalone. That could be taken on immediately. Establishing a historic district overlay could be done separately. A wetlands or water bodies protection separately. So a lot of pieces, these isn't it the entire thing has to be eaten at the same time. It could be done in a progressive way. And then we also said this might be a bit more controversial, but that the town board should consider having the backbone to put a land use moratorium in place while going through this process, at least perhaps for subdivision and special uses. The idea is it gives time to collect public input, as we said, to go around, have some information systems, et cetera, and before it is going on. And it also puts a sense of urgency and focus to get things done. It's obviously commonly done in a lot of towns. And thank you, and everybody else have a great rest of your summer. And we're obviously here for, as I said at the beginning, if any piece of this, as you keep going through it, you need, want to know more about our thinking, Mr. King of Maps to go through mapping, because we had some other areas like working on some of the business areas, densifying them a little bit along 209. We had a couple other zoning bits that we went through there. Places where people had residents that were zoned as business, etc. So that's it. We do not sit.
I just want to say thank you to all of you. I was involved in an awful lot of it, not the whole process, but having done it twice before myself, I know what it takes. And thank you for all the efforts. And I agree with you. Town of Esopus just changed a lot of their zoning code and subdivision code. And they adopted, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of 14 or 15 local laws. But in the process of doing it that way, got it done in 5 or 6 months, as opposed to it taking a year and a half to get it adopted. So I think that probably is a very smart way to do it. So we'll definitely take all this information you've given us, get with Mary Lou, work through it, and figure out a plan of attack. And I'm sure we're going to be coming back with questions. So.
And we also wanted to, I don't know if this is something that's been done before, but I know the public, they'll see this on YouTube, but not a lot of them this here. We really wanted to offer to just have the same presentation for the public, so that people could just ask us questions about this work and make it really clear that we're not the town board, obviously. But I think that takes a little bit of the burden off your shoulders, that when you're talking about it and then the public hears about it, they at least will have something, a foundation for them to have that knowledge base from. We know that when all of this gets adopted, it's gonna look different than what it does now, but we can do that, and it would be the same presentation, and we would allow people to ask us questions, and if they felt strongly, we would direct them to write letters of comment to the board.
Well, I think that's a great idea.
I do too.
Let us sort of wrap our head around it a little bit, and we'll figure out how to do that. But I think that is a really good idea to involve you guys, because you know the answers of how you arrived at this, because you talked about it for months on end, as opposed to us who are trying to still understand it all. So I think that's a really smart idea. So,
Okay, guys, now finish your night off.
Thank you.
thank you very much. Aaron, if I can trouble you on your way back, to just spin the camera
Yeah, of
back. Michael, thank you for your mapping expertise.
Okay.
I know how much it would cost to do that professionally. Back a little that way. Nope, too much. Nope, split the difference. There you go. You got it. Okay. We have a few resolutions here to do, and for the planning, for the zoning review committee, this first one will be timely for you guys. So this is the recommended resolution. The town, they don't. The town board, they care. They care.
Take care.
Well, this actually started, they got the second incarnation of it.
Yeah, I
but
know.
Town board adopts local law 3/2021 as presented to the town board August 17th, 2021. Such local law amending chapter 140 of the code of the town of Rochester to add a new subsection 140-26A entitled short-term transient rentals. A negative declaration pursuant to New York State Environmental Quality Review having been prepared and adopted August 12th, 2021. Determining the local law will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared. I'll make that motion.
Good, I'll second it.
Thank you. A long time coming. Any discussion?
I just wanted to address Mr. Davis's letter of August 24th
Sure.
on short-term rentals. He did make 5 points.
Mhm.
And we talked about insurance, which we decided would be on the
It's
person.
outside of our
It's
purview.
outside of our
Yeah.
purview.
Yep.
All right. He's a little concerned about our getting an application developed prior to this passing. He has a good point.
It will be ready before that becomes, it has to go through the filing with the state. So the application will be ready before.
He believes that there should not be a grandfather clause because it's his belief that they've been violating all this time. We never did discuss that. That's one of the third ones. And the property line should be clearly marked and posted. I do agree with that one a lot. I don't know so much about the, the grandfathering. We had to pick a point to start, so.
Well, we do say in the code that the owners are responsible to prevent their guests from trespassing, and that's something that could be an outgrowth of that law by his inspection process. Because if we're to modify the law again, then we can't adopt it tonight. And as far as the
No, I know.
grandfathering, I think we talked about the grandfathering for
We
6 or 8
did,
months.
I know, we had to
Yeah,
pick
yeah.
a starting
yeah,
point. I'm just
yeah.
reading what he said.
And one of his comments though was about the taxation. In order to be grandfathered, you have to be
Yeah.
registered
That
with
is
the county.
correct.
Yeah.
That is.
So
the
if
other
you're not
point he
registered
makes.
with the county,
Yeah.
even if you're operating currently, you're not grandfathered.
Yeah,
So
that's our definition,
Yeah,
is what he
yeah.
was afraid of prevent.
Yes.
Our
Right.
definition prevents that.
I believe so too. His points are very valid. I
Yeah.
just think many of them we've already addressed sort of peripherally.
He wants us to give him a list of all the do's and don'ts of the rental also.
Mhm.
Handicap accessible, like, are they using the pool? Are they using the TV? And we discussed the fireplace. I know that.
Right.
He didn't discuss that.
The
We have. an
The pool and
answer
the
for him?
TV and things like that, in my opinion, that's the owner's. I don't think that's a concern the town has over it. That's a individual owner liability concern.
But how would he address that when he goes to inspect?
I don't think the town does address it.
Okay.
I don't think we should be.
What about
The pool has to have a pool permit, so
yes,
to be there in the first
But
place.
he's
The use of
asking-
it,
when, it seems to me, anyway, if I read this correctly,
Right.
that he's asking what he, is it a problem if it's not handicap accessible? Will the town be liable for anything under the,
no, because it's the
Disabilities Act.
same building code for handicapped accessible for other commercial uses. It's the same
okay,
inspection process. So
is there any way we can write him back and say that we've addressed these?
I can do that, but
Or
it's,
speak to
yeah,
him?
yeah,
anyway.
exactly.
Speak to
Yeah,
him, I'm
yeah.
not
It's-
making it
it's-
very formal, but I'm just trying to
no, I
let him
understand.
know that it was at least
Yep.
looked at.
No, many of his questions are easily answerable. So,
That's what I'm saying.
and have been already answered.
Yes.
So I think it's just the
I
first
started
time
with the insurance because that's one thing that I
Right,
addressed
right.
initially, and then
as
as it was
yeah,
pointed
yeah.
out to me, that falls on the owner. They have to
Right.
carry enough to cover them.
Well, we aren't allowed to require insurance. And that's an
And that's-
individual
yeah.
choice of the person. Just like we can't require somebody to have homeowners insurance. If
Correct,
they
it's
don't
not
have it,
on
they
us.
don't have it. But it's
not
their
us.
liability if they don't.
Yes, which was explained in the very beginning.
So,
Thank you.
okay, any other discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Great.
A lot of work.
A lot of work.
4 years.
I think very good work, though, and I think we got a good. Oh, and I'll tell you, the town of Olive was waiting for this because they're ready to copy it.
Yeah.
Okay, Aaron, I'm gonna let you go ahead and make the next one since you have sort of taken the lead on this. If you don't mind.
Sure. Let me make sure if I get the last name right.
Sorry, didn't mean to throw a curve at
No,
you.
it's okay. I was saying it all day today and then now I'm feeling. Hold on. Let me just make sure I got it. Yep. That's it. Okay, so I'd like to make the motion upon the recommendation of Department Head Jeff Fry, Supervisor Baden, and myself, the Town of Rochester Town Board appoints Stephen Potter to fill the vacant position of labor transfers at the transfer station at a rate of pay of $15 per hour for 32 hours work per week. This employee will be designated to fill the position of labor attendant under the Town of Rochester job duty description.
And we should also add to be effective as soon as he is available, which may be as early as next
Yes,
week.
immediately. Yeah,
Yeah, I believe he said immediately, so.
okay.
I'll second.
Questions or discussion?
We dropped the hourly pay, I see, which is,
Well, the 15 is what we appointed the new person to.
Mr. Storms.
So what happened is Mr. Storms has moved into the clerk's position.
Okay,
The person that we hired for the clerk at the $16 an hour decided the job was not a good fit and left. Jeff wanted to give Mr. Storms a try in there. He's doing great. So we've now, we had a written application that was dropped off at my office. This person that we're recommending tonight was recommended to us and reached out to us verbally. And we also contacted 2 other people who were from the original Indeed list. We interviewed 3 of those 4. One was no longer interested or available. And of the three that we interviewed, we think he's the best fit.
What has we've never seen his resume.
Yeah, that is correct. He has previous, he is currently working for a landscaping company as a manager of a crew. He also has experience with a yellow freight warehouse in Maybrook
Oh,
of
I know where that
managing
is.
the loading dock. And as he put it, he was in charge of 40 bays of management. So we were told his name at the last minute. And so all I have is an email of interest. I don't actually have a resume from him, but the three of us interviewed him.
No,
I have
I
a
know we're
verbal.
not supposed to ask this. I'm in trouble again.
No.
Do we know how old this gentleman is?
Um,
Approximately. I know.
No, well, we.
Adam's shaking his head.
he-
I'm
He
asking for my own.
didn't submit a formal resume.
didn't
He
submit a
sent,
formal
he sent us
resume,
his
yeah.
work history.
Okay.
I checked
I-
work
I
references.
would caution us to even
Yeah.
make it
No,
anything.
don't
as-
guess, but all
No,
right, so.
No,
is-
but we can't, because again, we could be, even hiring him,
Okay.
if he's younger, all of a
shouldn't
sudden.
even
That
discuss
isn't
If
e-
anybody's
don't
over the age of
discuss it that way.
45, it could.
Yeah, I'm not touching on the age issue. I'm saying we did get a work history.
Right.
We did the interview. I verified employment and work references. They
Do
were
we
all
know
very good.
when he worked at Yellow Freight?
Yes, was it last year or the year before?
I think it was the year
I
before.
think it was 2 years ago.
Recently.
Okay,
But the three of us did interview him. And Jeff is anxious to get this resolved, which is why I moved it forward. And I got his name and that he was interested a couple days before we interviewed him. Which is why we don't have a resume.
quite honestly, the reason I'm asking some of this is because of the turnover that we've gone through.
Yep.
We just can't get anyone to stick there.
Agreed.
And that's why, is he willing, if he was working for Yellow Freight? I gotta say this, was he in a union? Because most of their people are unionized.
He was not. He was.
Will he
managed-
take the $15 and
Yeah.
be satisfied?
Yes.
Will he take the 32 hours and be
Yes.
satisfied? These are the questions that I'm asking now, and is he gonna wanna, well, he's been a loading dock, so he's been out there in the cold. I'm just thinking
So if
off
I-
the top of my head.
If I could
Sure.
answer that,
Sure.
I actually think those are fair points. And one of the things that I've learned from this process is how to conduct the interview so that all of that stuff is really clear, that we address it very directly, that we talk very directly about the job and the duties and the nature of it being three people basically at the transfer station. And I believe, especially after speaking with all three references provided, that this individual is a good fit.
Okay,
He did
That's good.
at our request after the interview, provided three names and Aaron followed up with that.
Two of them were from that previous job.
I appreciate your, you're saying about the turnover. Unfortunately, that's not a town of Rochester
it's not
issue.
a
It's
thing,
everywhere
it's
right now.
everywhere. They can't get people to
It's-
work in
it's
kitchens,
just
but
Brutal.
that's
He-
why I'm thinking,
The answer to your question, he was not a union member where he was working,
okay.
but he was managing people who were. But it was a hands-on management position. It was not a sit in an office kind of management position. He was responsible for coordinating the 40 bays, the forklifts, packages going on the right vehicles so they get to the right destination. And as he put it, if they didn't, then they had to go in and strip everything out till they found the one that wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So
So he's also been at another position for, he left this one place for over 10 years. So he left there to work at the freight company and then went back to it. That's where he is now. So he has had a very long history at one place.
That's
So
good.
I feel I feel good. I think we did a good job with the interview and we have, I think, gotten better at the process and describing the job, and we have those the duties and everything now. So I feel like we're on the right track when it comes to
No, I
the
just,
hiring process.
that's great. I think it's really, really great that. And again, I agree with Adam. It's like, people don't
It's
want to
just
work.
everywhere.
Yep.
Everywhere. And the cost of turnover to businesses all over the
Retrain-
place and
retrain hurts
retraining
them. I
is very,
mean,
very high.
This is kind of an on the job learning curve,
Oh,
what they learned there here.
It is running very smoothly right now, but we do only have 2 people there. We really do need to have that third.
And Jeff and I are planning on, in the next couple weeks, having a several hour session with everybody there, go over those job duties, I made some checklists, see how that stuff's working. And, have that sort of,
You did such a great job on the job descriptions. Can you divide them up and just hand them out?
yeah.
And the paperwork reporting has gotten better too.
Oh, okay.
I think we've been told it's much clearer. So
Very good.
I feel confident that, I know, I said it last time too, but I feel confident that this person is going to stick.
Okay.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Next, upon recommendation of Supervisor Baden, the Town of Rochester Town Board appoints Jeremy Baraka, Baracca, to fill the vacant position of assessor at an annual rate of salary, it should just say annual salary, sorry, of $32,676.80 to be prorated weekly for the duration of 2021 for 20 hours worked per week effective September 13, 2021, and authorizes the town supervisor to sign the memorandum of agreement for shared services with the towns of Rochester, Marbletown, and Rosedale. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. I circulated that memorandum of agreement. It's the one we currently have with Mike Dunham, just the numbers and the pertinent things were changed. Mr. Baraka is prepared to do all 3 towns. He's going to do 20 hours a week for us, 10 for Marbletown, 10 for Rosendale. And all 3 supervisors were sort of involved in this negotiation. It's a slight increase from the current rate of pay, but we were probably one of the lower assessor paid positions in the county. But everything else is in
Would
agreement.
there be a way to bring Jeremy to a public meeting and if we had some people and introduce him so people would at least know? I wonder how many people know we're changing assessors. I mean, seriously, till they go in,
Yeah.
when there's
yeah.
something, it
Well,
would be
today-
nice if we could,
Yeah, actually, tomorrow is officially Mr. Dunham's last day. He's retiring for the public after 30 years of being an assessor in New York State. And he is going to continue on a contractual basis to help Jeremy get up
per
to
diem,
speed.
per diem contraction.
And Jeremy had to give notice where he's currently working, so that's why originally we were shooting for the week of the 6th, but he wanted to be fair and give them 3 weeks, not 2 weeks notice.
Mhm.
And I think he's going to be a good fit. So. Great. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Next, request of Ulster County personnel to establish an employment position. Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes Supervisor Baden to request a determination from the Ulster County Personnel Department as to the classification of a 35-hour per week Assistant Recreation Director full-time.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, as you know, we had 2 part-time assessors, I'm sorry, recreation directors, assistant recreation directors. One retired earlier this year, leaving us with the 1 part-time after conferring with Ashley and talking with the Ulster County Personnel Department and with the person involved, they want to go full-time, which will be a 35-hour-a-week position. That makes it a competitive position. They are aware of that. I have checked with the county. There is currently one person on the list, which means it's less than the minimum to choose from. So we can hire anyone who qualifies for the job description. This person does qualify for the job description. So we can appoint them provisionally until such time as the next test is given, which will either be 2022 or 2023. We don't know exactly. And everybody is aware and comfortable with that. But in order for us to fill the position, we have to first ask them to create the position. So that's what this step is. Once they then send me the notification that that position is created, then we can make the change. And it will be our part-time person moving to the full-time position. So,
Which will be the 35 hours.
correct. They'll be moving from a 20-hour-a-week position to a 35-hour-a-week position. And we will then not fill the other part-time. We will leave the 2 part-time positions. We're not going to remove them from our possible list, but we'll just leave them unfilled and unbudgeted for in next year's budget. So, but this is step 1 of the process. I just wanted to get Ashley's buy-in on it all, and she told me earlier this, or late last week, that that's what she would like to do. So,
I think we can call the vote.
okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, next, this will have a little explanation, but we'll do the resolution first. Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes Supervisor Baden to amend the 2021 Highway Fund budget as follows. Expenditure line DA 9730.6 band principal to be increased from 240,000 to 281,165. Revenue line DA 599 appropriate fund balance to be increased from 140,000 to 181,165. I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Do you want any punctuation to separate those two?
Yeah, they were each basically a statement, so it probably should just be a period after each line. The reason being this, we have a $110,000 ban that is due early September. We had budgeted to pay 70,000 of that. Now that we've opened up that, last year, we didn't know we were going to do the $150,000 ban. We have enough in fund balance. I would like to just pay this one off rather than rolling over $40,000 more of debt. The money is available. And I would, that way that ban is done and closed out, and we don't have to pay the lawyer to renew it, which is another $550. My feeling is let's just pay it off and still only have 2 bans. So if everybody's in agreement with that. Having a ban of 40,000 at the interest rate, it would be nominal interest. I mean, it was 0.75% interest,
Yeah.
but it just didn't seem to make any sense if the money was sitting in fund balance and not really collecting interest, that we just use it.
We did the same. We had the same amount for the Mill Hook Bridge, right? The
Yeah.
same, yeah.
Yeah.
0.07.
So,
Yeah.
but if we adopt this, then I'll pay this off next week when it comes due. So that's why I'm doing the resolution tonight instead of next Thursday.
Yeah.
We can call a vote without Chris. You could just mark that Councilman Hewitt was absent for that vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. Okay. Next, time is it? Let's move into the request for the zoning designation change for 1819 Burn Road. You want to come up and join us, and you can explain to us your changes?
You voted yes?
We did. We just marked you as absent for that vote.
Okay.
So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
There's a new packet in your.
Yes.
or new-
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got the email.
I didn't print it out because I assumed somebody will, or. I can use
We
the
did it.
computer.
We
We
have
did.
it. We have it. Thank you.
I didn't want to kill more trees.
You don't want to kill them.
We'll do that for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. But more importantly, actually, I appreciate the time that the board and everybody has spent until now and is allowing us even now to speak. And I spoke with a few of you and several other people as well. And it seemed that the way our plan was represented may not have been exactly accurate. And we wanted to focus, and we still want to focus on agriculture and agricultural activities. And it takes some time to do other things and even decide whether we want to do other things or not. So we want to be very specific and straightforward, and we would like to actually simply ask for a rezoning that allows us to focus on agriculture and focus our energy on agriculture and related activities. And that's what I have written in the presentation. So it's not anything different than what I'm saying. If there is anything in particular that you would like me to point to or discuss, I'm happy to discuss that.
So from what I'm understanding, and he had a meeting with Mr. Davis.
That's
and
right.
Mr. Davis sent us a letter where, and just to clarify, I called just to make sure I understood, because the wording in Mr. Davis's letter was a little confusing. So he asked that the AR3 request be reconsidered. His understanding was that we were not considering the request because of the seeker. So by saying he wants it to be reconsidered, he's suggesting that we
Move forward.
we move forward on the request. He has also confirmed that planning board will not need to be involved if it's just a zoning change and agricultural use because they're principal permitted uses. We would clarify that with him, obviously, and get it in writing. But verbally, he did convey that to, I believe, to yourself and to me, that this zoning change would be to allow the agricultural uses on the property.
And just to clarify, he did do that. And we are not looking for at this time any special uses or even anything else that we proposed previously.
At this point, it's just the change in
Zoning, yes.
I thought it was really interesting to see the presentation about all of this agricultural across the river and all of this being so much R2, and the goal of the comp plan is to help protect farmland. This helps get across the river.
I appreciate you saying that because I was going to steal their wording, but I realized maybe it's not the best way to do it. But no, that's exactly how we think about it as well.
Nice.
I'm sorry, we were going to say something.
I was going to say that it's blend, you put it better than I did, taking their idea, they're blending, we're keeping with what they've just proposed, even though we haven't adopted it. It's still blending both sides to an AR district.
So if we were to consider moving forward, we would have to do 3 steps. The next steps would be, one is we would need to schedule a public hearing on this zoning change. We would need to do a referral to the county planning board and a referral to the local planning board for comment. And we would have to, because there's no other agencies involved, we are automatically lead agency under seeker, but we would have to type it. And because it's a zoning change, I believe it's automatically a type 1 action. I would have to verify that, but I believe it's enough. How many acres is it?
Total of 42.
Yeah, I think
42
it's,
plus.
I think it's enough acres that a change to the zoning map of a certain size is an automatic type 1 action, but
Is type 1 no action required?
no, type 2
No.
is no action
Action
required.
required.
Type 1 is the one that has the
Everything.
Lengthy.
lengthy, but in a zoning change, the majority of questions are project specific. So in a zoning change, many of the questions are not applicable
Got it.
to the review. We can do the seeker, though, at a later time. We don't have to establish that tonight. If the board thinks we have enough information right now, which we have you probably should, the seeker form that you submitted to us earlier, did that include the special events in there?
there is a mention of it, and I think I discussed with town. I'm happy to scratch. that
Yeah,
out
we
and
should,
sign.
we should get and before I circulate it, we should get an amended one that takes any mention of that
I'm
out.
happy to do that.
If you could provide that. Other than that I guess I could ask the board for the ability to circulate that to the Ulster County Planning Board and local planning board pending the amended application being received. Is the board comfortable with that?
Should
Yeah.
we, as we put that forth, should we put forth, it is just agriculture with no special event to the planning boards?
Correct. It is agricultural.
Should say that.
The reason for the request of the zoning change is
Yes.
for agricultural use only,
Only
not special
events,
events.
there are no,
Correct.
that would
And we will
require a
be,
special.
we
use
will be
permit
clear
there.
on that
Yes,
in the referral.
yes,
for the request
please,
for
so
zoning
that there's-
change.
Yes,
But rather, well, we do have a meeting next Thursday, so why don't you resubmit that to us? I'll circulate that and then you'll know what you're voting on. I'd rather do it that way.
okay, that's
If the
fine.
board
Yeah,
is
as
okay
long-
with that.
That way it stipulates no special.
If we
events.
circulate tonight, the county planning board meets next Wednesday. We're not going to get on their agenda at this time.
Right, yeah.
So we might as well wait and get on their October agenda. And then we'll get you scheduled for a public hearing. We'll figure out our time frame.
If at all possible, since you have done this change, I'm looking at the one that we have amended, so it's not 100% correct, but without the special events, would there be a way for you to just outline some of the ways in which AR3 will allow you to do what you're thinking? And the reason why I ask this is because agriculture is also a principal permitted use in R2, but in AR3, there's like a bunch of other stuff.
Yes.
So maybe
Yeah.
if you could just, I don't know if there's you're resubmitting your seeker, is that right?
So I was actually thinking it's simple.
Or
The
if a
town
narrative.
allows, I'm happy to tomorrow go in with an amended application. I can simply remove the notation,
That may be the best.
sign, so
The
it
best
doesn't
way,
have to
if
be
you submit
resubmitted. Yeah.
an amended application that emphasizes what Councilwoman Nowen just said, the reason you're asking, because you are allowed to do some
Yep.
smaller scale agriculture in the R2, but it's the specific uses that you're looking for is
Right.
why
No,
you
that's
need the AR3.
And for us, that's helpful because we're doing it at your.
It gives us a
What's
better
already there.
reasoning.
What's already there, like he has nut trees there, like he said in the last presentation.
Well,
Is that-
in the last page here, he has the different.
Right, yeah.
Uses.
Right, so this is, I think, if you're the retail, whichever it is you're thinking you would like to do that are not on the R2 one. Because you're currently in R2, and currently in R2, it allows some of it. But
So in the seeker I submitted, and I can scratch it as I say, but I can remove it simply.
Right.
Others are mentioned in that.
okay,
seeker,
great.
So I have clarified that,
Okay,
but I can
great.
highlight those.
I am noting though, that some of those principal permitted uses do require site plan review.
Yep,
so
I
that-
understand.
That would involve the planning board, so.
Right, so that's what I think some of them he's saying. is
Yeah,
take
so if
them
you're
off.
going to do those, then we do have to circulate to the planning board, the seeker part of the project.
Right,
Because it would be a co-review then in that case.
no, I understand.
Okay, I think
All right,
if you get that to me by early next week,
I'll come back tomorrow morning.
okay, that's great.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
I'm gonna ask if the board minds if we move the watershed park up because Chris has to take his son to college
9 o'clock.
and has to leave at 9 o'clock. So
Today.
Tonight.
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 4 hours.
Great. I was like, well, I have to work at 5 tomorrow, but I get that, 9 o'clock tonight.
Big drive. there.
So if we can move the watershed park up and let Chris make that
Sure.
presentation, then we'll cover the other things. So,
I might still be here for the rest too. We all received a proposal last week. Comes in under our budgeted guesstimate from last year. Last
I think I may not have printed that in this package.
You did.
I
Oh,
have
yeah,
it.
it's
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Okay.
Last time B briefly, just asked about the good nut trees. It says purchase 4 to 6 good nut trees, and then there is a link to different types of nut trees. He also recommends pecan, English walnut, board nut, and different types of nuts. But any other questions come up since last time?
Only that, this, is that part of the 3,800?
Yes, the cost of the plant.
And the other question, because it's 3,800, are we above the threshold
For bidding.
for bidding?
We're below.
We are below. We need to get a written quote, but because
Yeah.
this is a professional service,
Right.
it does not require us to get quotes. We could if we wanted to, but also since this is an ongoing project with this same, it does classify as a professional service, which is an exemption from needing 2 quotes. Other than above 3,000, we would need 2 quotes. So,
My other question is, and I don't know if this is feasible or not, when you purchase a tree like this,
Mhm.
does it come with any kind of a certification or guarantee until it grows?
Not really.
I don't know how that works.
The caging is important, and then the protection, usually 10% loss is normal.
Okay, the reason I'm asking is because I know on construction sites, when they were told by the engineer it had to grow, the site, Walmart site.
Yeah.
All the trees that went around there, they had to grow and they had to be replaced until they
Until they
took
tell-
hold.
Yeah, I can find out. That's a
And
good
I'm just
question.
curious about that.
See if there's a
I don't
guarantee.
know.
That's actually a good question. If, you know,
If you're-
if
if you're-
one dies, if part of our contract is that it be replaced.
I think his proposal is he helps with the watering, the fencing, and then that our stewards, the ECC, helps
Okay.
maintain them. But I'm gonna ask him if there is a guarantee on any of the trees.
Yeah,
If you could find that out, Chris, and then we can put it to a vote next week.
I don't know, I didn't know if there was any such thing on these trees. I just knew what went on from
In all of my
construction.
years of landscaping, we would just buy new trees. Do you know if there's any guarantees on plants?
I mean, there's usually not.
Mhm.
I don't know about,
Some nurseries
Yeah.
do, you know, some of the larger nurseries do have for like home gardeners.
Yeah. If we
Commercial
purchase-
size, I don't know.
I would-
Probably
Home
if we did
gardeners.
I
100
only
trees,
asked
they would
because-
say, we'll guarantee a percentage of your trees, but
Yeah,
with 6,
yeah.
there's probably no
Six isn't
guarantee.
very much.
But one thing that I've done is get the little bags that you connect to the base so it slowly waters it,
Uh-huh.
because that's the thing that'll kill it fastest. is
Lack
of
or
water.
too much?
Lack mostly.
Lack most.
Yeah.
so this is, I just want to be clear about what this is for.
Okay.
So it sounds like continuing of clearing that Andrew would oversee. Purchasing the trees, that would be included in his price, or we would purchase those separately?
I'm gonna find out. If he just asked
yeah,
that,
that's
what
I'm
I
not
was
sure,
asking.
yeah.
And then
He met with Jeff a couple times with me recently, so that's the mow and meeting to coordinate. What I
right,
found last year is he didn't need to be doing trail clearing, for example, because
right.
John Messerschmidt is volunteering his crew for that now. So we
Yes.
don't need to pay him for certain things.
So it's just it says like, to increase biodiversity and productivity and to provide a bountiful future inheritance. I think he's just saying that's why you should plant the trees.
Yeah, that's the
Right,
why.
okay.
of it. Mhm.
And then under the websites that he listed, establish a walkable and easy to see layout for the trails. Creating a connected series of ecologically significant locations on the property. So he's going to be doing that?
Yeah,
Or
he
he's-
and I already did the ecologically significant inventorying, but we haven't connected them yet.
Okay,
And establish a walkable and easy to see layout. That's been done with marking, but now we're meeting October 1st with Hudson Valley Native Landscaping to establish more, to follow all, we've taped it with colorful tape. And now we're gonna make more cleared areas where thorns aren't in the way, bushes aren't in the way, things like that.
So basically what Andrew would be doing is the actual planting. He would be sourcing and ordering the trees.
I think it needs better, clear delivery.
It
Yeah,
could-
if you can get a more
Yeah.
clarification of what he's doing.
An itemized bill, what are we getting?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's,
And we will let him know, we will need.
That's why I asked on
If
the
he's
trees.
physically
Yeah.
doing work on the property,
Yeah.
I need a certificate of
Okay,
insurance,
additional insurance.
naming
Right.
the, yeah.
I get it, that's what'll end up happening, but again, kind of
Yeah,
line
we need a
listed
little
out.
bit more defined contract before we can
I agree.
handle this.
And then I think the other part that we talked about a while ago, and this obviously I don't think it's under Andrew, but it might be under phase 2, the bigger phase 2.
Mhm.
Like maybe this is what he's proposing for what he could do in phase 2. But we talked about in phase 2, having a clear roadmap for what's required to create a park,
Right.
like legally and technically, so that
Yes.
we know that we're.
That's part of the deliverables I need him to address that he didn't hear, because he's been talking to Ben Gannon in the county environmental.
Oh, so that is
department.
something he could.
He can,
Okay,
and Ben knows the steps, and so
Okay,
I
great.
think that has to be on the deliverable.
yeah, I think
Yep.
that would be great.
Yeah, if you
'cause
can work with him on refining the contract.
We want to
and
make
then-
sure that we're,
and a report. I
the
like this.
whatever we are doing, we're doing it in the right order
I
too.
agree.
Can we get a report and maybe, I didn't even care to take a picture with his phone. Can we get some pictures? To
Well,
start
Oh,
a file.
as it's
to-
happening?
Yeah. to
Oh, of
see-
course.
to
Of the
see a
progress?
fi-
Oh,
Yes,
sure. that's a
Yeah.
to
good
see
idea.
a
Progress
file.
report.
I mean, I'd like to have a file
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that we know.
We
what's
did the one last
progressed.
year with the presentation of what was done, but we
Right.
can make a new one for what
Well,
will be done.
it could kind of all continuously go in the
Nice,
same
yeah.
file here on the town.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And then
Also,
we'd have pictures.
I don't mind being recorded to saying this, but I felt last year he didn't create a good presentation and he didn't create a good proposal. Last year, I strengthened his proposal,
Yeah,
and I didn't want to do that for him this year.
well, it needs to be clearer, because right now we couldn't.
Yeah,
go
I-
there.
It's all over the place.
I
Yeah,
have
exactly.
questions.
It's
like you had
it's
questions.
ideas and bullet points. It's not really a.
Yeah,
proposal.
that's why I was like, this increased by, I was like, is this what he's doing or is this a supporting sentence? So
Yeah.
that
And
was,
is he,
yeah,
it doesn't say, is he planting and protecting the trees?
Yeah,
Or is he
that's the other
recommending
thing.
trees?
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that.
we need to
is
know
he going
exactly
to
what
do
he's
the
going to
physical-
accomplish and how he's going to accomplish.
And
it.
again, like you said, the watering and I don't know. can they
Because-
feed
and
trees of that age?
I also don't
know.
mind
Right,
saying this recorded, that if it is the minimal amount, I think we might want to get some different quotes.
I agree.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
He says here, create another more refined version of a trail map as like an afterthought. That's the most important thing.
That's
It's like,
what I'm saying.
by the end
yeah,
of the year, we should have a tight map with the whole key of where everything is.
Yes.
I'm
Well,
gonna-
and at that point, we might be getting into wanting to bring in an actual surveyor. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
much more expensive, but we're gonna get a much more detailed
Yeah.
mapping of the property,
Nice.
I just
showing
wanted something. simple.
grade and slope and
Yeah, next,
although,
next step.
yeah,
Mhm.
so,
Great. Okay,
Um,
I'll have that by Thursday.
okay.
Did you say something?
I was going to say that, yeah, that at this level, you know, if you can just take some pictures and do, maybe, how about a sketch, Mike? A sketch or something, or take what's available on the
Yeah.
parcel map.
Yeah, if you
And
can
give
do
us some
something, you know,
Great.
last time was more a visual map as opposed to an actual to scale map.
With overlays and everything.
Yeah.
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 Okay. Oh, yeah, thank you.
And, yeah. I hate to volunteer Michael Coleman, but he's been very willing to help us out on rail trail maps and things.
Nice,
He's very good at mapping things.
cool. And he
And,
loves it. It
He
seems-
does love it. It's what he does professionally and in his personal life too.
Cool.
So, and he's very good at it. So,
All right, great, thank you.
thank you.
Anything else?
Not on that. So now let's go to the large multiply. I forgot a hyphen there, but tires. So currently, as you saw in the bills, the price of them has gone up to $8 a ply. And no,
16.
$15 a ply, excuse me. So those 8-ply tires are $120, and we're only getting $64 right now for them. So we either need to raise our per ply from $8 to 15, or we need to
Six-
say, well, yeah, we
16.
should go to 16, you're right.
Yeah,
Or we should say we're not going to take them. Now, we normally get one every 3 or 4
Right.
months. This, I'm not sure why we got, what was it? We got 8 of them,
Right,
but we also haven't had a casings pickup since late spring.
Jeff
early
said they
summer.
sat there for a while.
Yeah, the tires sat there all summer long, which is why the bill was so big this time, but it's, normally that would have been 3 different. Part of it was casings wasn't, I don't think they have the labor, because Jeff said he's reached out to them a couple times and they said, yeah, we're not, because they come from Catskill, and they weren't in the area, so.
I would think that we wouldn't take them. I mean, if this is a tractor trailer tire,
Basically
know,
what it is,
yeah.
tractor trailer or a truck tire.
yeah, I don't know what they're doing in our transfer station. I would think that there was some kind of, commercial, truck depot that does tire repair that disposes of these and,
Well,
somebody might wanna-
tires are one thing that we can take on a, not on a, so much on a, they're not controlled by the UCRA.
Yeah.
So we are allowed to take whatever tires we want. It's just been a service to our residents, and quite frankly, it's to try to keep some of them off the road.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that we
Right.
see them on the road, but I think, I'm concerned if we stop taking, we'll see a lot more on the road.
8 of them anyway.
Yeah.
It's weird though, because I was just trying to look up a picture so I could show you guys, and they cost basically as much as it costs to dispose of them.
sometimes.
The
If we
tires?
raised-
Yeah.
If we
Yeah.
raised it to $16 for an
buy
8,
new
it'd be
ones.
$128.
Well, we would just go, because right now we are $8 per ply for
Right.
everything over, I think it's everything over 3 ply or something like that. I'd have to look. So if we doubled that fee to $16 per ply, that would cover us, and we essentially break even.
Keeps the punches even too.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
think of as we did it for $4.
I'd say increase the price.
I think, this is what I think. I think we increase the price if it causes a lot of strain and stress on the transfer station employees because it angers people, then maybe we consider not taking
Come
it.
January, we can decide not,
Yeah.
well, anytime we can decide,
But
but
that, 'cause
January, we're
to
gonna
me, that's the
revisit
main
these.
concern is that someone disposing of it is gonna be like, what? And be upset about that. Now, we're only charging exactly what it costs us.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the
I mean, right now,
alternative for
we're-
people is.
Essentially, it cost us $56 a tire to get rid of those tires.
Yeah.
So,
I don't know, the only, like, if you went to Van Cleek's or some other place, you can pay a disposal fee to them and they'll take your old.
Yeah,
tires.
I don't know, though, the tire places only, I believe they only have to take them if you buy new tires from them. I
I
believe
think you
that's
may
the
be
law.
right.
I could be
That's
wrong
very
on that,
true.
but I believe if they,
Right,
they have to take the old ones, or at least give you the
they're going.
ability for them to
ability, but
take
they're
them.
gonna charge you something to take them, but that's
Yeah.
why they're the first place I think of for trucks. See,
And we're not really making money on tires. We're
No.
just doing a service.
Yeah. I know
Let's raise the price.
I
then.
know we signed the bill, but what's the name of the company again?
Casings.
Casings.
They're the only, really the only people in the area who do that kind of large volume that we. They do every transfer station. That's who the RRA uses.
Right,
I think everybody just about who's a larger collector in Ulster County uses that.
Right.
So. Okay, so you want to make a motion then to raise?
yeah,
this
I'd like to make a motion to raise the cost of disposing of the large ply tires to $16 a tie.
16 per
Per
ply.
ply, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
saying tie per
Yeah.
ply.
Reply.
I meant to say ply,
Okay.
the
Have a second?
tire ply, sorry.
Second?
Second.
Okay, I'm just gonna double check
I like that
the
slide
pricing
about
here
who
real
to get
quick.
angry at.
Don't get angry at us.
Yeah, it's like if
You're
the
allowed to.
transfer station employees hear anything, they should let us know. But how are they gonna know that?
Yeah, it's listed as large truck tires.
Yeah.
So much per ply.
Yeah.
So we're gonna increase the large
Large
truck
truck
tires
tires.
to 16.
To 16 per
big.
flag.
Chris brings up a good point. How do the transfer station employees know their tires? How do they know that that's not a regular tire, that it's a multiply tire?
They're the
Size.
ones, basically it's everything over 16-inch tires.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's on the thing, it says the size, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the light truck is up to 16. Light truck tires are up to 16 inches, and then everything above 16 inches is so much per ply.
Yeah.
So if it's only a single ply, then they're just paying $16. But I think it's marked on the tire. Jeff seemed to say it's pretty easy to identify
Yeah.
what the ply is. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. And sorry, do we want to do that effective a certain time, or just, if we don't, we'll just do it immediately?
I think immediately, yeah.
Okay.
Or any more of them get in there?
Next discussion, manufactured housing park permit for Hidden Forest. We had gotten a letter from Mr. Davis about violations there, and we adopted a resolution and sent a letter requesting that they be addressed. Checked with Jerry on Friday, I believe. And in his opinion, they have not been addressed. So I gave you a copy of the law, which, if you look at section F on page 3, the revocation of the license. We have to, it's the section 2. We have to convene a hearing to determine whether the holder is in violation of the provisions of the chapter. So we would have to do a resolution to, now, I'm not sure exactly who we notice for that, if we notice the entire town or the neighbors. If you wanted to wait until Mary Lou's back next week and we could get clarification. We've never had to done this before, so I don't really know.
Do we know why they won't fix it?
Because of the owner,
Cost is the answer.
cost and the owner.
The owner replied back, I mean, I don't want to get into too much details, but the owner replied back that he has done a significant amount of work. Jerry's answer is he has not done enough work. There's still trees that are very near to, that are marked to be cut down, that are still hanging over people's homes. And the road is still not in good condition.
I have a question for Mary Lou, if we're gonna, if you wanna send this to her. Should we repeal this park license? What happens to the people living
I
there?
asked that very question, and I didn't get an answer yet. As Jerry said, they could all band together and stop paying their monthly lot
That's what I
rental.
wondered about.
But I don't know if we can, and we'll have to find out from Mary what it means. So I wanted to bring it to your attention because the 15 days passed about a week ago or 10 days ago.
So he's already into his second 15
Yeah.
set of days here.
Yeah.
Has he been issued a violation? Obviously.
Well, the original letter went to him in March or April, was the initial
Is he
letter.
gonna say he wasn't served?
He was served the letter from us in person.
Jerry's letter from April.
Jerry's letter from April was mailed to him.
Right.
He was served, though, the notice from us, which is in your packet.
Yeah.
Which says you have 15 days to comply.
This was on 7/28. Is that the correct one?
Yeah. It's the one that the letter that I
Yes.
signed, yeah.
Yes.
I think a public hearing would make it seem more serious for the owner.
Yeah, I just,
Yes.
so we'll speak with Mary Lou and whatever we have to do to continue the process, we'll do next Thursday, if that's okay with everybody.
Mhm.
Then we'll make sure we're doing it correctly and properly, and Okay. Payroll services contract. We have talked in the past about using a payroll service company. Sickler Torch Allen and Churchill has recommended that we go to QuickBooks next year for many reasons. They feel it's a better product for us. The downside is QuickBooks does not have a very functioning payroll system.
Right.
Our current software that we use is very specialized. But the more we use it, the more I learned that the problem is it lets you do things that you shouldn't be allowed to do, whereas QuickBooks doesn't. And Tim is very, very familiar with QuickBooks. He's very confident it will make the whole accounting system much smoother and easier. We've discovered that over the years, we have in our books, general fund and highway fund are done. Every deposit and expenditure is recorded within the computer. Our other accounts, street lighting, grant fund, they're just done in a paper ledger, and that's how they've always been done. I want to get into where everything is done through one system. With that being said, I talked to Michael Richardson, who obviously the two present proposals here in front of you are from two larger payroll companies.
They are, and they're miles apart in money.
Yeah, they are both, though, have local representatives. It's not where we're going to be talking to somebody in Kansas City or something. Michael did recommend two other, in his definition, local. One was over in Hudson, New York, in Columbia County, which based on where he lives, to him, that would be local.
That's local.
He also mentioned one down in Rockland County, which is somewhat local.
I had a presentation by Ethan Allen in Gibson.
Okay. I met with representatives for these two companies. I wanted to present to you. Now, this one that says expiration of 8/26, that expiration is if we want it. They are offering a very, very great incentive right now. That if we were to sign a 3-year deal with them, we would get 5 months free, but that expires today. He did say to me, if we adopted it tonight, I could call him after the meeting and he put it through. That being said, he said they often offer these incentives. He just said he's never seen a 5-month one ever before. He said normally they're 3 months, but he also, I told him, I said, I doubt I'm going to be calling you tonight.
His bottom number is it really 657150? Is that what he's proposing?
Annual.
Yes, it is. That is the annual. Now,
I'd love to know what that.
the difference between the two of them, though, just so you know, I guess there's no reason I can't say the name. So there's
I was being
ADP
cautious
and
not to.
paychecks. The ADP one, the courier delivery, the weekly delivery of paper checks is $18. The
The other
paychecks
one's
one is 11.
11.
Paychecks does not charge for paper checks.
Correct.
ADP charges 50 cents per paper check. Currently, we only have about 8 or maybe 9 people who get actual paper check. I mean, everybody gets paper checks, but most people have direct deposit. Two things could happen. One is we could adopt a policy and tell everybody you have to do direct deposit. Most businesses are doing direct deposit. Or for any that we would have to print actual checks. So the other ones, what they would do is they would submit a record to us just like a check, and we would print them out ourselves. And then we're not paying the.
Oh, that's the first one.
Yeah, well, with both of them, we would. With both of them, we would.
They don't-
So Mike, if It looks like Paychex is about $200 a month, so $2,400 a year. The other is $6,500 a year. What's the difference that we get for $4,000? I'm not worried about the 50 cents.
Actually, the other one,
Per week.
Oh,
that's per week. ADP is
Oh.
actually a lot cheaper.
Okay.
ADP's is per year. The 190, the $200 is per week.
yeah, okay.
10,000.
So 10 grand.
Yeah.
So what do we get, what are we getting with Paychex for another 4 grand a year?
Well,
You
you
know?
see the top there of what it includes.
Mhm.
There's a few other things we get. We get our labor law posters, which I know it sounds silly, but
They're
they
not-
cost us about 50 or 60 bucks.
Yep.
Um,
All right.
But a lot of what they're offering,
Mhm.
we're not really gonna use.
Okay.
They're both national companies. The ADP guy told us that 1 in 4, no, I'm sorry. I think it was 1 in 3 checks, payroll checks in the United States is their company.
Okay.
I have a question.
They're both, in my opinion, it's price. Now I could go to Paychex and say, hey, can you beat this price? Both salespeople have been very responsive
Mhm.
to questions. Both of them came and met with Tim and myself.
So Mike, one more time, only because I think I might have missed it. Why are we moving to a payroll system? I know there's advantages to them, but why
Because
do we need one?
the software that I want us to move to for financial
Mhm.
doesn't do payroll.
It
Okay.
does. I have to disagree.
Well,
with you.
it does, but it doesn't do it well. It also simplifies the process.
If you're moving to QuickBooks, I can tell you that it'll do 1099s, it'll print out the reports you want, it'll give you the hours, it'll do everything you want. QuickBooks will.
Mhm.
So what is different than what we're getting?
A lot of it is ease. I mean, it's, right now, we have one person doing payroll, HR, bookkeeping,
But we have, the town has always had this,
Understood.
Mike.
but it's getting more and more complicated.
And
We also pay Susie to do all our quarterly taxes. And quite frankly, trying to get her to do them is next to impossible sometimes.
Well,
I
then
know-
maybe it's time to look for a different person
Well,
there.
But I've also know you said that, right now we have people that are filling multiple roles from bookkeeper and everything.
Mhm.
So there'll be a significant labor savings in here, you feel? Especially as we,
There won't be a significant labor savings. This is just I've quizzed most of the other municipalities. Most other municipalities are using a payroll service.
Because Tim would still have to give a report to either one of
Correct.
these companies
We will still
with
create the report and
everybody's
send
pay.
it to
You
them.
still got to write everything down to give them
Mm-hmm.
to input into their computer.
gotcha.
Well, no, it's not quite that. It's much simpler than that. We have a portal into their system and we enter the information.
Okay,
into
what
their
my
system.
point is, you're still entering it, all right? So it's not done on paper. Paychecks is what I've used in the past. Paychecks, you put the report. Now it's done by computer.
The thing about a
Fine.
payroll company is that they do all our, at the end of the year, all the W-2s that currently we end up doing. Yes, we're doing them, but we got one person, we increased them from 35. We had Shirley before who worked way above her hours, but never wrote them down.
Right.
There were weeks that she would do 50 hours and even though we would tell her, put those hours down, she never did.
Yeah.
So,
I think Karen first suggested the payroll company.
well, Sickler, Torshout and Churchill first suggested it because they talked to me 2 years ago about changing to the new software. We didn't, but now with part of the problems that we had with the AUD and all that is going to change even more next 2023. The AUD is going to become a very different thing than the way we know now. And we'll be able, with QuickBooks, we'll be able to just enter it directly into it. So,
I think the price is so different that maybe we can do one more local, Ethan Allen and Poughkeepsie. I could send you a contact.
okay. And I can check with the local ones from Mike. I started with these two. They both immediately. Paychex actually approached me and said, are you interested? ADP I contacted, so.
And if there's an error on any of these, and they have to curry out another check or whatever, who pays for that?
I don't know the answer. I'll ask that
Okay,
question. I'll ask that
and the
question.
reason I ask is because
Probably
inadvertently they,
depends on whose error it is. If we
exactly,
give
I'm
them bad
believing if it's
information, then-
ours
yeah.
and
Yeah.
say punching in, just
Yeah.
an example, instead of punching in 80, punches 80 and they print the check for 80.
Mhm.
And the guy gets his check and he's real happy with his check, but it's not right.
The other thing about this is the employees have better information to the minute. They have an app where they'll know
That's
how many.
nice.
Yeah.
These will also track paid time off as opposed to us doing it
Mhm.
Nice.
manually in a notebook.
That is,
It's a modernization. I mean, can we keep doing it the way we are? Sure.
Yeah.
But it's just moving into the way I'm sure most larger businesses and we are on the edge of being we're over 50 employees, which puts us into above a small business category.
Yeah.
So there's something put out there, but it was suggested that we try to if we're going to transition to QuickBooks, that we transition to the payroll system prior to that, to give it about a month
Oh,
to settle in
Okay.
before we, because I'm going to make the recommendation for certain that we go to the QuickBooks because what we're doing just allows too many errors to be made.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, it's a very proprietary program that probably served its purpose at one time, but
can we
it's,
compare apples to apples too? This guy's got 50, this guy's got 45.
yeah,
Can we,
but you can basically figure it's a per employee thing.
Yeah, so what do we have at this point? How many actual are we printing every month?
Well, it depends on the week, and that's why I told them we were between 45 and 50, so one did the price to the high and one did the price to the low.
Yeah, that's why I was.
Because that's where we are, because at any given
Yeah.
week, like this week's paychecks, we had 8 more paychecks because you got the 4 town board members, no, 6 more. You've got the two judges.
Yeah,
During the summer, you've got our extra staff. So we're up and down in our number of paychecks. It's not a consistent number every single week.
and still ADP is significantly less, even if you,
Yes.
Yeah.
and we'll get lower.
And ADP doesn't charge you by the week. They do it by the month.
Mhm.
So they basically look at whatever your highest number is for that. I think is how they do it. for that
so
one.
I understand this. It would be, if we were signing on the dotted line tonight, it would be 5 months free, which is a lot.
Yep.
And then it would still be the 65, 70, 150 per month or per year? It must be per.
No, that's an estimated annual cost.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you divided that by 12,
Obviously.
which is broken down on the 527 a month.
I just want to know when they say it'll go annual savings during promotional period. So this is what's confusing me is they've got the money before the discount and they don't show the.
Yeah,
discount.
well, the proposed promotional period is basically, they're proposing us 5 months free. And that's where the 27, 25 is coming from.
All right.
Um,
Okay. So
But
then,
so ignore the front page if you just want the bottom line of the cost. That's there. And then the $1,500 setup fee, he said that $1,000, because of our volume, that's an automatic. They will give it to us.
for 500.
Yeah. And that's a one-time charge just to set it all up.
I get that.
Yeah.
But I'm still questioning the differences in the two. After this 5 months, is this going to go up?
No. We're not getting the first 5 months free. If you read the details in the promotion.
Yeah.
You get months 7, 8, 9, 19, and 20
20,
when
yeah.
you sign a 3-year contract.
Are they all 3 year?
I think in order to get the
And the
promotion. we
reason
sign
I'm
a
asking
3-year.
that is paychecks also a 3 year?
They do not say it
They
here.
do not say. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
If there's a difference Does that make the difference? I mean, would paychecks come down if it were 3-year?
I don't know. And that's why I wanted to present these, so I can, to
Giving
you guys.
So many questions.
Yeah, no, but that's part of why I want to present this, so I
Yeah.
can call them and ask them these questions, or
Okay,
email
thank
them
you.
and ask them these questions.
And
So,
that's the other question.
Yeah.
You know, maybe,
I mean, I don't want to get in a bidding war, because I don't really want to go to Paychecks and go,
No,
hey,
no,
your
no.
opponent, your
No.
competitor is cheaper than you.
no, I didn't
you
want
know.
you to do that either. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
maybe this is their 1 year,
The-
but this is their 3-year. They
It-
got you now.
We
for
kind of
2 extra.
lucked in, that he said to me, the discount, he said, you just happened to, I happened to call him at the right time. He said, right now, this summer, they're offering this discount. The reason, their end of month is the 26th day of the month. He said, I don't know why, but that's their end of month. So that's why it expired
So
today.
can we get a real price from them?
We did. It's on the back. It's the 527 a month.
All right.
So if you were to multiply that out by
527 by 12.
36, that would,
Well, that
or,
would 12.
and
Do a
then
year.
they're saying there's, within 3 years, there's 5 months.
And that's what they've done there with the annual, the 6324.
Yeah.
And then
Because
the
525.
Enjoy the last two items. I'll see you all next week.
Fun, drive
Okay, bye.
safely.
Thank you.
And they
Lucky
give
son.
us, they give it, yeah, and their W-2s at the end of the year are 495. And the W-2s from Paychecks are 675. Plus they charge a $75 fee to set it up,
Yes.
and ADP does not. So
Okay,
We need a-
so,
ADP is cheap.
what did we say? I know it's cheaper. I also want a real figure from them.
Yeah,
I'm a little concerned about.
But that's what I would do. is
No, you
let's-
did get a real figure, B. The promotion is just if we were to sign tonight.
Let's get the third one and then do apples to apples.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we got a high, a low.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get a middle.
And you're right, maybe there's a better, much better deal for 3-year. Maybe there's a better deal for 5-year. Who knows?
Well, who wants, I
They may
don't
not
know if we
offer
want to
5 years.
lock
I don't know.
something in that long, but I'm saying it's not a bad idea.
Okay, next thing is the Heritage Day fireworks.
Yes.
Kate approached me on this. The Friends of Historic Rochester for Heritage Day were considering asking for community businesses to help sponsor fireworks. She said, do you think the town would chip in? I said, how much are we talking about? She said, at that time, she said $4,000. She's got a better quote in here. She just forwarded an email to me of 3,500. I said, with the COVID going on and everything, and that businesses have really been hurting for a year, we have the money budgeted in various other, we had budgeted for the agricultural committee, $1,000. There are a couple places we budgeted 100 here, 200 here that we haven't used. I could pull those together to create the 3,500, and we would then pay for the cost of the fireworks for Heritage Day.
And that
As
is
a
the total
community event.
cost?
That is the total cost. So we don't have to decide tonight, and Kate, she's not here tonight, but she'll be here next week and she can talk better about it than I can. But I wanted to just float the idea by you that the town of Rochester, we already agreed to pseudo be co-sponsors by using our insurance policy for the closure of Main Street. This could be our contribution to the community day. We are allowed to provide for funding for celebrations, just like we've done things for Memorial Day.
And they're going to
Other-
provide the site plan as well. There'll be a site plan issue. that says-
They would be shut off from the, behind the town Veterans Park there in
Yeah,
the old landfill area there.
thank
So,
God for rain.
yeah.
Can't see.
They also, the company said that they shoot them rain or shine, so. And if they did, people could always park in their cars and watch them from their cars if they had to.
Yeah.
But it did look ahead at the weather. I know it's a month away, but the weather says Weather says sunny and cold.
And
for that
cold I can
weekend.
deal with. I can always put on jackets. I don't know.
Who knows if you trust the weather
Yeah.
forecast a month away.
Where do you get the weather a month ahead?
There's an online app that you can look at the projected weather for temperature and whether it's gonna rain or not. And it's probably how the Farmer's Almanac does it too, is my guess. Anyway, that was kind of a bit of a joke, but I looked ahead and was like, oh, it's supposed to be sunny. Anyway, wanted to just get a little feedback on what you thought. If you thought it was, I think it's a great investment for our community. It will help make this day be very exciting. We haven't had fireworks in our community in a long time, other than the racetrack, and for us to sponsor them would be. And Ashley did say she would go out to businesses, and if the board wants to, we could take donations to help defray the cost. When she first said it, I'm like, do we really want to go to businesses and ask them for money right now? You know, they've all been hurting. They're hurting for labor. They've been hurting through the COVID. Not that the residents haven't either, but I just feel like we can find $3,500 in our budget to pay for these. So you can let me know what you think about it. Is there anybody completely opposed to the thought of it? Okay. American Rescue Plan funding. I finally was able to track down at least it's not the government's booklet about what's allowed and what's not, but it is from the National Association of Towns and Townships. And kind of goes through what it's allowed to use the money for. Obviously, we knew about the broadband. But there's a section in here that talks about health, and it also talks about tourism and recreation. Let me try to find where in this I read that.
Okay, I took this training class today, so it's on ARPA. It was an hour lunch training. That's what they gave.
For this,
For
same
ARPA,
thing?
For ARPA,
Okay.
yeah.
No, we read it. Well, they talk about physical wellness and children and what I've learned is too, in the conversations I've heard about this is it's defined pretty loosely.
You must make everything fit so you
Yep.
prove that it falls under COVID and would be
Right.
workable under COVID and,
Right.
and whatever. Suffice to say, the kids could play outside, even if they had masks on. They'd
Oh,
be
here it
able to
is.
Be outside.
Here it is, impacted industries. It's on page, of course, not numbered.
Up on top.
It's on the top left side there, about the 5th page.
Impacted industries, page 7.
Where they talk about tourism, travel, hospitality, but they also talk about public health situations and so anyway, what I'm leading to is we had budgeted from our fund balance this year, $50,000 to pay for the playground equipment. We already did pay for that, but what I would propose is that instead of funding it out of our fund balance, that we pay for it out of 52, which is what I think the bill was. The second part is that it's becoming really obvious that this is not real easy for just general people to put together. The instruction manual that came with it is close to 100 pages long. Now, it outlines every single possibility of how to do it, but I reached out to the company and their installer would charge us a cost of $26,500 to install it. It would take them 5 to 7 days, he said.
20.
So it's gonna take them 5 to 7 days. If we're doing it on our own, it's gonna take us a month. And quite frankly, trying to do that with volunteers, because we certainly can't ask Jeff for a crew for a month to put this together. So I would propose we take that cost out of the. We could decide what, you know, the equipment itself, we could leave just like we did. But I also, this is money, we're never gonna get this opportunity again. So if we take it out of fund balance, it's gone. If we pay for it, pay us back, pay ourselves back with the cost of, from this fund, then we still have the 50,000 fund balance to do something else with.
Yeah.
What's your rationale under COVID? Because you're not paying for the actual.
The rationale under COVID is that it is a community service of, you know,
His professional services, and though the actual
No, but
piece
the-
is.
but the install of it is part of it, because if you don't install it, it's, you know, to me, it's the whole product. If you just buy something, if you don't put it, if you don't install it, then that's.
So I guess, you know, instead of, you know, we were looking at it as 50,000, now it's 75,000,
Right.
but this playground is $75,000, you know?
Right.
But again, I like what you're saying, Mike, because again, you know, instead of grabbing 50 grand of our own money, we get 75 out of the
Well, and
use it or
then
lose
what
it
got me
money.
thinking about it was, I was initially only thinking of the 26
Mhm.
or 22.5.
I think if you're gonna make it congeal, you're gonna have to kind of take the whole number.
I agree, and that's what
And
led me to the next step.
yeah, how do you just say, okay, we have it. Oops, we forgot about the installation.
We didn't forget about it. It was
But
just
I'm
a lot
saying-
more
no,
complicated.
what I'm saying
Yeah, it
is
was a lot more
for the-
complicated than it was.
I
just
know,
trade. Yeah.
But for the purpose of the report
Yeah,
to the state for
yeah.
this money,
What did you saw the training? What's the reporting look like on this?
there is no reporting yet. They haven't put it out.
No, it's out.
It's out,
We
but
report to the state.
yes, but
Yeah.
you also, and as far as you have to set up an account, an SAM account,
We have all that,
SAM.gov. That's so you'd have
Okay.
to go on there and look. They didn't show the reporting.
Okay.
Our
pages.
first report is, our first report is due the end of October,
Yes.
and then we report yearly
Halloween.
after that. Yep, Halloween
It's
is
due
due,
Halloween.
and then we report yearly after that. That would still leave for 500 and some $1,000, 600 and some thousand left, almost 570 something
I think
for
if we,
broadband.
if we tried, we could put this under public health.
Mhm.
And maybe some other infrastructure.
I believe it's public health. I mean, it's playground equipment is exercise, it's
Right.
it's
I
community.
agree, but you're also replacing the old one. So I was wondering about infrastructure.
Plus this one's ADA compliant and all the
Yep.
other
Yes.
great
Yep.
things that we had,
Yes.
so,
I don't see it being a problem.
cool.
So we could
Do we
pay
have-
ourselves back the cost of the playground equipment.
And get it
Um,
professionally installed.
What I probably would do is pay back the playground equipment and not pay back the mulch. The mulch was like 2,000,
Yeah.
because I don't know if we can stretch that. But the install of it and the playground
The
equipment, and then I could
mulch
go
has
ahead.
to be there because it's cushion.
Okay,
and
we'll put it
someone
in.
falls.
I like it.
I'm just
Worst
saying,
case is they deny it, and I don't think they really know.
but that's the
what it's gonna
reason
be
you put
yet.
that special stuff down, is in
Okay.
case the kid
We'll
falls.
put it all in
It's-
then.
There was a liability issue is what I was
Yes.
told, that, you know, that
Yeah.
it should be there.
See, you would know that.
Yeah, so
Cool.
I want to just get some feedback on it. We don't have to do any resolutions tonight. What I'll do is work toward, now the one question that I have, and I have to talk to Mary Lou about, the cost of installing it is, would require going out to bid, but it may be a specialized service that, so I'll wait and talk to
Is
her
it-
on
Yeah, I
Monday.
would
Does-
say
does
that's a
that-
professional.
But does that go, the material was under state bid, the mulch
That's-
was under
I have
state
an
bid.
email into the
Okay.
John, was it John or Joe?
John,
John Pasante
Yeah.
to ask him if that the install is, his email back to me said, I reached out to my installer, this is the price he
Yeah.
came back with. we would have our guys remove the existing one and then have them come in and put in a new one. And they are available to do at the end of September. So we get it in this fall.
The report they were giving was just the do's and the how-tos today. Just
Yeah.
make sure you
Yeah.
fit it in that COVID description.
I love the
Use it.
fact that Jeff was very gung ho for it, but putting in a small backyard one took me the better part of a Labor Day weekend with 4 guys. So this thing is a monster and
I just wonder if
There's 28 holes that have to be dug and every one of them almost is a different diameter and a different depth.
I was
and
wondering if we
they
could
give
get
you a
that.
little roadmap of dimensions. of
Now,
where they
this
have to-
gentleman would do that digging as
Oh,
well.
absolutely. They
Well,
would do
then
well.
that's,
and
that
then
in
Yeah.
itself is.
coming on a Monday, by Friday, we'd have a playground.
Yeah,
But
they
I'm
said 5
thinking
to
that
7
in
days.
itself,
so.
the digging and getting the proper
Yeah.
alignment and the depth and the,
That the bag of nuts and bolts that comes with this thing is like in a crate,
you
you
said
know?
that, I
Yeah.
remember you saying that.
So
And the Canon W40 that they sent me through the mail.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
my
that.
God.
That's so funny.
The box that came with special was the instruction manual and a Canon WD-40.
Oh my
A big
goodness,
can or a
that's
little
so
can?
funny.
About that
Oh, the
big.
stand, about the
Yeah.
standard. I was just curious.
They're like, you
know.
might need this. Here you go.
It was funny.
good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I would really like to see us try to do that
Yeah.
after what I heard today. There was a 9-page. I'll
Yeah.
Get it printed.
I
I'll get it
will,
printed at home.
I will do
do
some reaching out. Actually, I'll reach out to Congressman Delgado and see if he can give me any insight on it. He's been very
The
helpful.
ladies
through
were
the
very good, the
process.
2 ladies from the
Is that the Association of
attended.
Towns? Was that Sarah
Yes.
teaching it? Yeah, she's
Brancatella,
very good.
Right,
Yeah, Brancatella.
Brancatella, yes.
She's really good at that. Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, I
Aye.
forgot
Thank
Chris
you.
wasn't here. I'm
I'll
gonna
be
take
back in a
this-
second.
The reason I put my mask on was because